Over the years, I've had students sometimes grumble about writing corrections that I insist on making in their essays. This is an English class, right? Well, I love history too much to see it mangled by bad writing, and I love students too much to let you get away with sloppy writing habits that just keep getting worse if they're not corrected. Your coaches probably talk to you about muscle memory. It's why you drill some moves over and over again until they become automatic. There's a kind of muscle memory in writing as well. If you get into the habit of writing correctly, it becomes automatic, and you will train your writing muscle memory. Besides, it'll help keep you out of trouble. Just ask Wilbur. So, rule number 1 is write in complete sentences. I think you all know that I'm not advocating that you swear in Juan Diego essays, but I do like cartoons. So what is a complete sentence? A complete sentence has at least one subject-verb combination. So Joe ran swiftly. Joe is the subject. Ran is the verb. In my experience, students love compound sentences, which means a sentence where you have 2 or more subject-verb combinations. There's nothing wrong with these sentences except that they tempt you into the run-on sentence trap, and I'll talk about that in a moment. A complex sentence has a subordinate clause that does not stand alone, but adds information. These clauses begin with words such as because, or while, or after. Note that adding because to the front of our first sentence actually turns it into an incomplete sentence. Incomplete is not about the length of a sentence. So this is about the only excuse for a sentence fragment, and it is unlikely to work for you. It was a dark and stormy night. Is this a complete sentence? Yeah, it is in fact a subject and was is a verb, what is called a state of being verb. But let me note that students tend to overuse pronouns. They also overuse to be verbs. A better sentence would be the storm raged through the night. You know all this, right? Remember it on essays. Capitalize at the beginning of a sentence, but do not just capitalize randomly. Interestingly enough, I find that the most common capitalization errors I see on student essays are words that should not be capitalized. Only proper nouns, specific people, places, things should be capitalized. So you see an example of a right and wrong use of capitalization here. And now we get to the dreaded run-on sentence, one of the most common and least understood of writing errors. And I won't say that they precisely blow my mind, but I will deduct points for them. Yes, indeed. I did, in fact, copy this first sentence directly from a student essay. And of course, I am not and will not name names when I give examples of writing errors. But this is a classic run-on. You really have probably 3 sentences here that are just put together without any punctuation marks to separate them. Let me just note that this sentence also exhibits 2 other common student writing problems. One is shifting back and forth between past and present tense. For history essays, I recommend that you stay in past tense. It's safer and easier to remember. So in other words, stayed is past tense, occupied is past tense, belonged should also be past tense. The sentence also leaves out words that are needed to make it comprehensible. That's very common. Note that these initial essay assignments are very short. You should have time to go back and read it and make sure that your answer makes sense, okay? Now, the common splice is a harder error to recognize. Trust me, it is still an error. A comma splice is a sentence that combines 2 or more complete subject-verb clauses with just a comma, no and or but, what are called coordinating conjunctions. And this is, in fact, an incorrect use of sentences, although you will still sometimes see it even done by good writers. I think it's a good habit to break. This cartoon may help you understand, if you can see it or read it, the differences, different kinds of run-on sentences and how to avoid them. But here are the basic rules. You can put in a coordinating conjunction and a comma. So if your sentence says, I feel tired, comma, I also feel wired, which would be a run-on, you can fix it by putting in a but. You You can also fix it with a semicolon. By the way, you could use one here. I feel tired, semicolon. I also feel wired. I have another example here. Lots of times, this is a good fix. The coordinating conjunction seems to break up the sentence unnecessarily. You can also use a colon. This is a little trickier, but it works when the second subject-verb clause is really an expansion on or a definition of the first. So in the sentence, Brittany is my friend, she has never failed me, the second part of that sentence really investigates the nature of this friendship with Brittany. This may be more complicated than you want to attempt, although I'll confess it's a kind of punctuation that I like. And by the way, notice that you capitalize the second part of this when you use a colon. But finally, and I really often recommend this, you can simply insert a period. I feel tired. I also feel wired. It's been my observation, I think I said this earlier, that students, particularly good students, tend to write long sentences. They feel as if that'll somehow impress the teacher. Actually, I think sentences are more effective when they are of different lengths and indeed of different structures. But basically, periods are your friend. And my closing thought is simple works. Make an interesting claim in straightforward language, defend it with evidence, and avoid the big mistakes. Okay?